للناس ما بيتكلموا انجليزي يا اخواننا بنعتذر لكم. الحلقه دي حيكون فيها سبتايتل لو انتم بتسمعونا على سبوتيفاي او مش يوتيوب، الحلقه بيكون فيها سبتايتل. فالمهم الحلقه فيها ترجمه يا اخوان.
Actually, this book ain't about Omar Al Durri.
Can you speak Nubian?
I really needed that in my life. At least do something for me.
Erse.
السجتاري.
By the way, being a Muslim Arab in the UK, how did that affect you when 9/11 happened?
I think it started way before 9/11 because, you know, you get called names. Funny enough, I took a job offer to work in an academy because I felt kids were really vulnerable and innocent because I knew they couldn't hurt me. I've never been to a World Cup before as a fan and I get to go as a coach. This is great. Because when you're on a plane and the plane's about to crash, the first thing they tell you to do is put your mask on before you put your partner's mask on or your kid's mask on. The reason why they tell you that, because you can't look after them if you haven't looked after yourself. I've had close people in my life and I don't really deal well with losses, and I've lost a few people because I genuinely don't think I'd still be alive if I had gone the other way.
أضبط برنامج في العالم.
I love it. I am addicted.
Something I hope you love it though you heard it. I see I do. We busy hustling they just munching la low. The way my baby girl be working that too.
ما يحب الكلام المثالي شديد لكن عينه حقوله.
سكر بني أثبت برنامج في العالم.
And we are live. I'm your host Omar Al Durri, coming everything sports, local and international. Pulse Radio 95. By the way, are you comfortable doing it in Arabic or you want it to be in English?
I would prefer, you can ask it in Arabic and I'll answer as much as I can. It's my first language is English.
So you want it to be in English?
Preferably, if you want some good content.
English is not my first language. It's not even my second language.
That's pretty impressive.
It's my third language.
Now you're just showing off. That's amazing.
My first language is Sudanese Arabic.
Okay.
My second language that I can't even speak is Nubian language. Nubian language.
Okay.
Because in Sudan we have each area have their own language.
Yes.
So it's not Arabic, it's not English, like it's a language.
Okay.
A written and spoken language.
Wow.
And so somehow throughout the years I managed to learn English.
But are you comfortable talking English?
I'm not really comfortable, but it's not my first language. So if I run out of vocabulary, then it's gonna be it's gonna be fine. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be amazing.
If you're a native English speaker, can you speak Arabic?
Can you speak Nubian?
Can you speak Nubian? Yeah, that, exactly. نديك كلمة بالنوبيان.
Erse.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, it's pretty good. Erse. زي إنغانين إتسي. How are you? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. السجتاري.
اديني مويه.
Oh yeah, that.
A sea is water. Gattare, get me.
Well, I'm learning something. If I knew I was going to be learning things, I'd make notes.
You got introduced to
I'd
Nubian.
make notes. This is education.
I never thought about doing the introduction to the podcast in English, so I'll be doing this in Arabic and then we'll switch it back.
Yes.
حبيبنا في كل مكان، رجعنا لكم بحلقة جديدة من برنامجكم المفضل أضبط برنامج في العالم، سكر بني. والليلة معانا كوتش عمر الدري. كوتش عمر الدري يا أخواننا راديو هوست هنا في الإمارات بولس 95. عنده كتاب الليلة حنتكلم عنه، كتاب مهم جدا. أنا شخصيا استفدت من الكتاب ده. مدرب المعد الفني لمنتخب غانا. الراجل ده يا أخواننا درب في كاس العالم، درب في بطولات أفريقية. أرسنال فان، دي حاجة حنتكلم عنها لقدام. It's a true honor to have you here on the podcast today.
Wallah, what a pleasure. Not just to be on your podcast, to be a guest on something which I've followed. I've seen it grow as well, which is pretty impressive. And I'm just really happy to be here. We almost shot a podcast before the podcast. Yeah. In the conversations that we had, but it was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to being on the show. And for me, it's more about what can I offer to your listenership. Yani, into the fact that you were nice enough to ask me to be on the show. My first thought is, what can I offer to add value to the people that already listen to you guys on a regular? They follow you, they follow Muhammad. You know, they see the characters behind the mic, the production, the editing, all the hard work you guys do. For me, it's more like, what can I do for them? You know, I know you from outside the podcast as just someone who gets involved in a social football match. And we got to know each other through that. But now it's like, okay, what can I give them back? Something where hopefully the listeners can enjoy, you know, the content that you're providing through me.
This is really interesting because me and Omar Al Durri, we met on a shoot. It was my job to do that shoot. But then we got in touch afterwards and then he invited me to his circle. We played a lot of football together. Mm-hmm. And I had a question in mind for a long time. I wanted you to analyze my case. I really like playing football, but I don't feel the same about watching football.
Okay.
What's the case? What's wrong with me?
I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think people sometimes like to be part of something. They like to be involved in something. It has real emotions because you are physically and mentally engaged with someone, and you are in a team environment, and you're going through experiences with other people. When you're watching, sometimes people don't have that connection. They don't have that energy with the people they're watching because they don't know them. They're not living through them, which again is another story altogether. There's a big segregation between the TV and the person watching it. Even if you watch it live, some people don't enjoy watching live sports. But when you're playing, you're in it. You have a chance to control certain things that are in your hands. So when you go back, you have a satisfaction of what you're offering. And especially with you as a player and the positions that you play on the pitch, you can influence the game. You're not someone that's going to hide. You're not someone that's going to be shy. You're someone that's going to express through the sport. But when you're watching, maybe you don't have the same impact, which is natural.
Yeah. It's not like I hate it. If me and the boys, like if the boys are watching football, I sit down and I watch with them, like a watch party.
Yeah.
But for me, by myself, unless it's like a final of the UEFA, I don't watch it.
Yeah, some people are like that. By the way, there's some footballers who don't watch it. Yeah. One of them plays for the team that I support. He said it publicly. I don't enjoy watching. So that's not just you. Imagine if it's a footballer that doesn't enjoy actually watching, then it's something that's more common than you think.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Yeah. Let's carry on the story. The first time I played with you, I've never said this before. I saw you giving instruction on the pitch, and I was like, who is this alpha male controlling the pitch? What's going on? And then I misjudged it in the first game. Then
How?
I was like, he's so alpha male. What's going on? But because I didn't have the idea that you coach.
Okay, because I didn't say it.
Yeah. But then on the second game, I guess you talked to someone in the pitch and you told him that every time someone gets the ball, he tends to play a long ball, so watch out. And then if we want to get the ball, you just isolate that individual from the ball. Like I heard you give an instruction, and then on the very next play, I can't remember.
I remember who it was.
Everything that you talked about, I was like, oh wow. Throughout my career, which is not football career.
It's a career.
It's not a career. I have never had a coach. We just played in the hood with the boys. That was a first-hand experience, having a coach analyzing the game, making some adjustments, and those things work. So that was so humbling for me.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
You never said this to me before.
I never said this to you.
Okay.
And I was like, this is something you didn't experience. Maybe humble yourself down, listen more, and observe. And I observed on the third game. I was like, wow, he is legit. And then I went back and I searched behind you, and it turned out you are legit.
You know, if I can tell you that a lot of the times when I'm playing, I always say I do not want to coach for the specific reason of your first impression, because of you called it alpha male. For me, I grew up to loud leaders, people who used to not just tell you what to do, they used to shout at you.
Okay.
So I am not that type of leader, nor am I someone who thought I was going to be one. So my style, especially when playing, is very different in that sense, because I didn't want to be that person. I only felt that I had to say something when it was needed. If I saw something in my head that was about to happen and I wanted my player or my teammate to look good or to shine, then I would say, that's going to come towards you, take 2 steps back, just play it forward. If it happens, and I remember the time that you were talking about, and because you've never mentioned this, when you said it, the person went through my head, the play went through my head, only now that you've said it. And it was from the opposition side. He was playing on the left and he's right-footed. And the ball comes to him and he hits it first time over the top.
It was on the left, yeah.
And as soon as that happened, when I saw the person not struggling, but he was uncomfortable, I just turned around and said, listen, when it gets to him, he's going to hit it first time towards you. It wasn't the fact that, I got it right. It was the fact that I could see that was going to happen because he's done it a few times, maybe in the past. It wasn't even that game. And so as soon as he cleared it, we dealt with that problem and we pressed him so high up that he had to play it first time. We won the ball back and the possession went the other way. So it was interesting you say that, and I'm surprised you remember it.
I take notes on the pitch. Before we started the podcast, I told you about my partner, Mohammed. He was our college team coach. He was a coach, but, you know, I don't want to take something out from him because I used to play a left back. Back in the days, I wasn't this big. So I was I wasn't the top runner, but I had a freak stamina.
Okay.
Like I run all the games. And I wasn't the best. I was really bad. I wasn't skillful. I have stamina, I have strength, and I take the ball. I run, everyone come on my way. I just annihilate him and I have the ball. This was my style of playing.
Right.
But then on that game, the right wing from the opposition, he ran past me like 2 times and he was a runner and I wasn't a runner. We conceded a goal and Mohammed made an adjustment. He was like, you know what? You play in the middle because you like to keep the game physical. And he got a runner on the left back. When he did that, I scored a goal that qualified us to the next round. That was like my first ever experience of coaching on the field, but I didn't understand what he was doing. I was so pissed that he moved me from my position. But when I scored the goal, I was quite happy about it.
Good move by the coach, huh?
Yeah. He really wanted to be here today, but his work schedule just moved quite a lot.
Yeah, we'll meet inshallah in the future.
Inshallah. That was a very long ass intro, by the way. I will cut it down. But you might want to introduce yourself. Where did you grow up and where are you from? And all the backstory behind the coach, Omar Al Durri.
Okay. So I'm originally, my father is Iraqi, my mother is Saudi Arabian. I was born and raised in London. I lived there 24 years before moving to the UAE. I didn't always think I was going to be a coach. I didn't always think I was going to be a leader. I didn't always have all the confidence and faith that others had in me. Growing up in the UK, you learn fast and you learn in an environment that maybe doesn't always support Muslims, Arab at that time, which is interesting. But because I was so obsessed with sports, I had to find a way to stay in it for my own sanity. So I used football and I used health and fitness and sports as a way to stay away from trouble, to stay away from things that maybe weren't good for me. And that's how it started, the journey, and the rest is history.
By the way, being a Muslim Arab in the UK, how did that affect you when 9/11 happened?
I think it started way before 9/11 because, you know, you get called names and it was more accepted back then. Now everything's recorded, social media, phones. If you say something, that could be sent over and gone viral in seconds. At that time, none of that was happening. So you had to face it. You had to deal with it. You had to learn how to adjust to certain things. I'd like to think that I kept my cool most times, but I wasn't your saint. So I also had to go through times where you had to fight for what you believe in. And when people didn't believe in Islam or didn't believe in racism or didn't believe in discrimination, then, you know, you had to stand up for what you believe in and do what's right for you.
I don't want to say that's great, but it's great that you stood up for yourself.
It's tough.
Okay, so when did you got introduced to football? When did you feel like, oh, okay, I think I can play football?
Well, I started off as a goalkeeper because I was really overweight.
Okay.
And it was more to block the goal.
You were going ham on all those dolmas,
anything that was food. I would demolish. But I enjoyed the sport. I wasn't very good at it at that time. I was a big boy. I loved food. I wore glasses and I had a huge afro. So you can tell I don't have much hair now and I don't have glasses now. But that's through eye surgery and through laser that I don't have that anymore. But I wasn't your social kid. I wasn't the popular one. I knew that. I accepted that quite early. You know, when you accept things quite early, it's easier. When you're in denial and you think that you're something that you're not, it's harder. So I got in goal. And I wore glasses and I got hit in the face and my glasses smashed all the time. And the ball hit me in the nose a couple of times, as you can see right now. And I dealt with it where, I just wanted to be involved with my friends, you know. You seek validation through sports sometimes and you want to be picked, but I was always picked last at that time. And then as you grow older, and obviously I went to an all boys school, so there was no distractions, there's no women, which is a good thing. because then that means you don't have to show off. You don't have to impress anyone. You're there amongst the boys. You need to perform. And that's how I developed as a person, and I developed through sport. And I remember changing from primary school to high school. So when you turn from between 11 to 12 to 13, become a teenager, and we do our measurements and our weigh-ins, and I was way overweight. I think that was the changing point where I needed to start training and doing stuff and being better, just being a better athlete. And then I didn't expect to be a good athlete at all, but I was very hardworking. I wasn't the most skillful. I knew that, but I was relatively intelligent as a sportsman, and I became better and better and better. And I didn't get distracted by anything. Not going out, not things that normal kids got distracted over. I just wanted to play sports, and I got better and better and better until eventually my coaches were asking me to be captain. And I didn't understand why, because I knew there was better players. But the person who can absorb information, the person who can be an example to his teammates, the person who can lift his teammates, I think that's some of the definitions of a captain. The person who is accountable, responsible, who never hides, who always puts his heart on the line. These are all things I had no idea that I had. But the coaches kept putting me forward, and I was like, I didn't understand it. Like, why would you choose me? And I think also because maybe my family never watched me play. So that was another thing where you normally would want your dad or someone to say, I'm going to take you to practice today. They never took me to practice. So I had to kind of fight for my own status. Is that the right way to say it?
So saying that your dad never took you to practice, was it because he was too busy making a living, or was it?
Yeah, he was an orthopedic surgeon who dealt with footballers. So he saw their careers end every day.
Okay.
So because he sees their careers ending every day in his Iraqi way, disciplinarian, why should I support my son to end his career tomorrow? That was his way of thinking. Now, listen, it was a great way to either make or break a person, because at that point you have to decide. You're at a crossroads. Do I carry on or do I just quit? And I carried on. He was right in the end because I got injured. But as soon as I got injured, I went into coaching as an 18-year-old. I knew, or I had a feeling I wasn't going to make it, even if people said I was. Whatever the hype was, I didn't believe it.
What was the injury and how you got injured?
I tore my calf muscle. I was at Arsenal soccer school, and I was going through the academy, and there was rumors that there was trials coming up, and I don't know, there's so many things that could have happened but didn't happen. So instead of saying this might have happened, there was a bright future ahead. And at school I was rated quite highly because I was the only under 16s that played with the under 18s. Okay. In a very competitive school. There was 30 players in every year. So 30 players in every year group, you're looking at a lot of players. And now to play 2 years higher, and you're not even fully developed as a 15-year-old, and you're playing with the under 18s, it's a huge deal. I didn't know how big of a deal it was until I got called up to the seniors, which never happens. And I was a defender, I was a centre-back, who then, when he played with the older ones, played in the midfield. Like, how did that make sense? I didn't understand that. Surely it'd be the other way around. If you're playing with your own age group, you will then take more responsibility and you'll be further forward and you can do things. But there was this one coach, bless his soul, a French Tunisian coach, who used to manage the under 18s, and he said, bring me Durri. That means they have to excuse me from classes. We went to a Muslim school that was very strict on classes. You didn't miss classes. So I'd have to miss my classes to go play for him. And I'm like, wow, are you sure? Yeah. And I want you to play in the middle. But I'm a centre-back. It doesn't matter. You're playing in the middle. You're going to play the number 6.
What did he saw in you at that time that made him think that, nah, you're not a centre-back, you are a midfielder?
Maybe rawness, like a certain raw talent. I didn't see it. I didn't understand why he would do that. I was a ball-playing centre-back, which at that time didn't really exist. So you didn't have a position for it. Now you have players who can play out the back, and it's almost like a new style where everyone plays out the back. But at that time, you would never be encouraged to play out the back, especially in the middle. No way. So I was a centre-back who was the captain for my under 16 team. And then the senior team called me up, and I'm their holding player. So I'm playing in a position that's very important to protect the centre-backs, but still distribute the ball in areas that I feel could hurt the opposition. And he saw that, to be fair, before anyone else did. I got stretched off on the first game playing for him to a round of applause, which was shocking. I remember getting on the school bus for that team, one of the under 18 saying, you're in my seat, move.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, sorry. I just moved, went to the front. It's because I took his place, and he wasn't happy. But I didn't know any of that. So my vision and my idea is you're a team player. You know, everyone's going to help each other. But he wasn't happy. I think he found it disrespectful for a 15-year-old to take his place because you're playing men's football now and you're a kid. There's a lot of lessons through sports that I learned personally as a player, which helps me with my coaching.
That's interesting. And then, did you get tackled or how was the injury?
I tore my calf muscle, so I was trying to block and protect every ball. I did not stop running. I was screening my defense and making tackles and not scared. Even though inside I was scared at the time because I'm playing against men. But I was thinking, no, I need to do everything. And I think I started to feel my calf muscle, but I didn't know what that was. And I went for another sprint and I was flying down and this other guy was flying down and I went for a tackle and I just felt the whole muscle just tear up.
Oh, complete.
Yeah. It was. I mean, to get stretched off we don't even have stretches in like school football. Like normally you have to get off, like just walk off or hobble off. But he was happy with me, the coach. So I think it made the pain less.
And then you took that injury, you went back home. How did your father react to that?
I told you so. That's his words to me. I told you so. So he was right all along.
But he didn't feel like you might be able to get back on the field?
He never treated his family, but he's a genius. He is a genius at what he does. He's unbelievable. But he didn't support me because he was worried I would rely too much on being an athlete and neglect education. And we come from a very proud educational family, where my grandfather, bless his soul, was a Nobel Prize winner. He was head of 4 universities in Baghdad. He was a big deal. That's big shoes to fill. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon who reconstructed the ACL for years and years in Chelsea and Westminster in England. He was in the best hospitals rewriting theses on the reconstruction of anterior cruciate ligament in your knees. So every year, they had this thing called Who's Who of Science. He was in the book. Every year. Then there's me. He doesn't want me to be an athlete because look at the levels of this game. And then you have this kid who's trying to be a footballer. How is he going to make his family proud?
All his research is about those footballers who got their career ended.
Yeah. He was amazing at what he did. So his method was not to support because your career might end in a day. And lucky it ended quite early for me. But I also came to the realization I was going to make it.
Since you got injured, instantly you felt like, oh, okay, I don't think it's for me. Or maybe you tried to see a doctor and then the doctor told you that, yeah, you can't play.
When the best doctor lives in your house, you're not really going to see. You only went to a hospital if you were in like the end of the world situation. We only went to the hospital if something was wrong with our heart or we were like really in a bad state. Otherwise, your dad's a doctor. Get over it. It's tough, but people go through far worse things than that. Yeah. So for me, it was like, it's just my calf. So I need to find something else to do now because I didn't go out with my friends and do things that they were doing as much because I was so obsessed with sports. Now, do I go down that path or do I find something that will keep me engaged mentally and still be present in the sport that I love because I've invested a lot into it? And then where do you go from being captain of everything to nothing? You know, you got to find something to do.
You didn't even think about any kind of surgery or physiotherapist? Or?
Not at that time, no. No, there was no chance for that. I came to the realization very early, I'm not going to make it as an athlete, even though it might have been too early. But I was like, nah, it's time to move on now.
I think that realization is very influenced by the fact that all the close people around you, this is what they want. They want you to focus on your education. They want you to leave this athlete life behind.
Yeah.
When everybody around you keep telling you that you need to stop, you need to focus on education. We don't want you to be an athlete. We don't want you to be an athlete because of this and this and this. And when this and this and this happens, because your soul is already penetrated at that point.
Here's the thing. There's so much of these stories in London where you hear athletes that could have made it and they would have been great and they didn't do this. So I was just one of those. And if I had continued pursuing, then who knows if I would be where I am today. All these things almost fall into place. It would have been unheard at that time for an 18-year-old to get into coaching and sit with retired footballers because they've lived their career and they've enjoyed their football and now they're coaching. What are you doing in that room? You're a kid. So that for me, that was like, no, I mean, I want to stay in it and I'm not sure if I'll be good at it, but let's see where it takes me. I still have to go to uni. I still have to work. So it's not like I have too much free time. In the morning, I went to university. In the afternoon, I went back to the school that I used to go to, King Fahd Academy, and I taught there as their PE teacher. So I was busy, but I wanted more. I wanted to learn the sport more. I wanted to see if there was anything for me in that sport. Maybe there wasn't. I didn't know at the time, but I explored it and I did it alone, and in the end, sometimes through discomfort, it's the best thing for you because you adjust, you adapt as a person. When you're uncomfortable with the situation, it trains you to be comfortable in high pressure situations, in anxiety, and things that are going to cause you distress. You're more calm, you're more relaxed because you've been through these kind of things where you weren't the best person in the room. And that also helps you develop as a person.
Do you remember your first coaching experience? When was that? And do you have any memories from back then?
I think my first coaching experience was probably when I went back to my school that I played for. And I went back and coached 5 different year groups, year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, and the seniors. And I was like 18, 19.
Wow.
Yeah, I went back to coach.
18, 19 coaching seniors.
Yeah, because some of those guys, their older brothers remembered me as a player. So I kind of had an advantage, to be honest. I'm not going to say it was all tough and stuff. If the kids were out of line, and they went home and they told their brothers or sisters, this guy, Coach Omar, whatever, he's telling us this. Most of the time, those guys were like, he was pretty good. I would listen to him if I was you, rather than the opposite, because you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And when you're coaching, you're not thinking of people pleasing. You're thinking of doing the best for the development of the team. So people are not always going to be happy with the decisions, especially early on. You're going to make mistakes. You still make mistakes. When you start to identify what your philosophy is, what your beliefs are, what your principles are, how you want people to behave as people and as athletes, then you start to form your own flavor as a coach. So at that time, I had no idea. I was still trying to figure out if I was meant to coach or not. But I had an idea in my mind that, okay, I used to be a player. It's quite fresh. We know when a player is a fresh player and he leaves and goes into something else quickly. Sometimes you still have that relationship with the players because you've been there and recent. If someone's acting up or being naughty or whatever, you've seen teammates like that. So I remember maybe not being the most understanding coach when someone would be naughty, because I would look around and say, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I'd stop it straight away. And they'd be like, or I would turn my head and wait for that person to say something and just turn around and look at him and catch him out, because I knew he was going to do something. Just small things like that.
Yeah. I
remember doing something which I probably regretted now, but I remember explaining a drill. We had like a setup and we had players here and players here, and I'm explaining what they need to do. And one of the guys at the far side wasn't listening, and I must have pinged the ball about 50 yards from where I was because I know he wasn't listening, and it hit him on the shoulder. And he was in line. There was like 10 people and I aimed for him and I got him.
That's, if I were that guy, I would be like, oh wow,
yeah,
okay.
But he wasn't even listening. He was talking to his friend. So, and I was explaining, and then he would then look at me and go, what do you say? But you weren't listening. So I remember, now I would never do that. But at the time I was like, this guy is not listening to me. Watch this. just ping this ball, and it got him. I remember his name as well. And afterwards, he was a very good kid. Like, he got what I was trying to do. When he listened, he was good. Now, how we are in society and how we are in sports sometimes resemble each other. Yeah. So maybe that's the way he was outside of sports, but sports was the only thing that almost made him feel part of a team. So he realized that, and then he became one of the good ones in the group. But you do things in the past and you just regret. You think, what was I thinking? Yeah.
At which stage you became an Arsenal fan?
Oh, since I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very early. I had to pick a London team.
So it wasn't a Terry Henry...
Oh, way before that.
Way before that.
Oh, 90s. 1993, I remember supporting Arsenal in an FA Cup final against Sheffield Wednesday, who don't even exist anymore.
Because most of the youth nowadays, they're stuck with Arsenal on the Thierry Henry and Perez
Of course.
times.
Of
Like
course.
that time, Arsenal was an unstoppable force.
Yeah, what an
for
era.
real.
Oh, way before Arsene Wenger came, I was.
But since then, it's just pain for the Gunners.
Yeah, but then you see who the loyal fans are, right? So if you see someone in the era that Arsenal have visited and he's still supporting Arsenal, she's still supporting Arsenal, you can tell they're loyal fans. But it's very easy to shift over to Manchester City or Liverpool or just say Barcelona, Real Madrid and say, well, we've won the Champions League. What do you have? For me, no, it was more than that. For me, I had to pick a London team. I was from London. I was born and raised there. I don't know anything else but London. It was either going to be your Arsenals, your Chelseas, Crystal Palace, West Ham, at the time. And I was thinking, I think it's Arsenal for me. And we always make fun out of the United fans because a lot of them are from London. They're not from Manchester. So we normally say you have more fans in London than you do in Manchester because that was the easy thing. At that time, they were winning everything. See, this is the era that I'm from. Now I'm giving away my age. But this is the era that I'm from is that at that time, United were winning everything. Sir Alex Ferguson was winning everything. So when you were a United fan, it's like you only support them because they're winning everything. This is before Arsenal and Wenger and these players came on board. His first signing was Patrick Vieira for 4 million from AC Milan reserves, and no one knew who he was.
That's kind of low blow for Real Madrid fans. Anyway, let's carry on.
Why low blow for Real Madrid fans?
They only supported him maybe because they are winning everything.
Well, no, but if you think about it, Madrid have won the most Champions Leagues over the last decade, right? So people now who are finding their love for football, they'll look and see who's attractive.
Yeah.
And they'll see the era of Cristiano Ronaldo, the Zidanes, and then now later on, obviously your Benzemas, and say, we want to support that team. But where I came from, you had to support a team where you were from. So it's a different culture. People that live on this side of the world, they don't have the pleasure of going to see their team every week. So the psychology is different in that. They support a team that they might play on FIFA or watch on Champions League or whatever. For me, it was like, you got to pick a London team. Who are you going to pick? And I picked Arsenal. That's why my love for Arsenal is still here.
You guys are doing well this season.
Not bad.
So far.
Not bad. I'm not getting carried away. This is going to turn into a meme if we don't end up... No, we're doing okay. We're doing all right.
All the memers will come after you. That didn't age well.
Yeah.
By the end of the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys.
Well, at least they're not saying you're top of the league with 0 games. Because normally by alphabetical order, Arsenal always begin top of the league. So at least now with that many games, we're still top of the league. It's not bad. It's not bad. Do I think we'll finish there? No. But what he's done, and actually, I don't know if you know this, but where I've recently got my license is the same place he graduated from. Mm-hmm. And I've heard any positive things about him as a person, as a coach. And I met him last year and he seemed very, very strong as a character, Arteta. So I hope he does well.
Expectation? Top 5?
Yeah.
Top 5 this season?
I would like to think so. Okay. If we just missed out last year and we didn't have the squad we have this year and hopefully people stay injury free, why not?
Top 3?
Let's not jump the gun.
Okay. We'll come back for this by the end of the season.
I'm sure we will. That's why I'm worried. Look, I think we collapsed last year and we should have finished in the top 4 positions even without the squad that we had. I don't know if you watched the documentary All or Nothing, but if you haven't, I'd recommend it. It's a very good watch. I was really worried about this documentary because All or Nothing is an 8 documentary series that is going in depth on a club.
Okay.
They've done it on Man City, they've done it on Tottenham, and I was thinking, oh no, this year's Arsenal. And I was really worried about watching it, but it gave you an insight between the connection between the coach and the club. And there's a reason now why the fans are closer to the club, whilst the fans were probably the most detrimental to their club, because every game you'd see the fan TV, you'd see abuse and hatred. So if you haven't watched it, plenty of memes. If you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend All or Nothing, the Arsenal one.
I will definitely watch that.
It's a good show. There's a rawness about the club which shows a lot of diversity in what they're trying to do. The mixed race of all the different cultures and the different people in that club shows it very much as a people's club, because there's a connection between the fans and the club. So when you watch something like that and you see Bukayo Saka who's been there since he was 8. When you see Emma Smith Rowe, whose father is African, even though he's light-skinned.
Wright Phillips.
Sean Wright Phillips?
Sean Wright, yeah.
I mean, his father was a legend there. But you see all these people in the documentary, you identify with them, whilst 10, 12 years ago you couldn't, because there wasn't people that looked like me and you in the club around that environment. It was very white dominant in that culture. Now, 3/4 of the team are from all over the world, from Brazilians to French to African. You know, you've got like a nice blend of cultures, which is very rare in the modern game anyway.
What made you move to UAE?
I had a dream of opening up my own facility. I had a dream of creating something where people could go train safely, focusing on 3 platforms: nutrition, physical training, and sports therapy. And I wanted a place that people could go to and feel safe and feel better about themselves, because I had never seen that before in the UAE. So that was my ambition when I came out here initially.
What's the story behind safe? Safe, you mean, are you comparing it to how
things are in London?
Things are in London?
Yeah, definitely. A safe space, a mental safe space, a physical safe space. I got mugged when I was 12. For those who don't know what mugged means, I got robbed at knife point from a couple of guys just because they wanted whatever I had. So that's what I mean by safe.
And then you moved to the UAE.
2008.
You open your facility?
No. There's a fitness facility that offered me a role as a master trainer to come out here and to train the trainers on how to be at the highest level for that company. So they sold me this dream of coming to the UAE to be able to be a master trainer, but it didn't exist. The role didn't exist.
How old were you back then at that time?
2008. 24. Yeah, it's about 24. Still young.
Still young, huh?
Ambitious, yeah. Naive, dream world a bit. Hungry, very hungry. Independent. They threw me a leaving do party in London. All my friends to celebrate, I'm going to Dubai. And then 6 months later, I hated it. I wanted to come back to London. If I didn't have that party, I would have come back. I was too embarrassed because all my friends said, "Oh, you've made it. You're going to Dubai. This is great."
But what happened when you landed here?
When I landed here, I realized there was no position.
Did you have any relatives here?
Yeah, my uncle lived here, and he was nice enough to let me stay with him. But I didn't feel comfortable staying because I would spend the whole day out, and it looks like I'm playing. I was working, but I didn't have a visa. It took me 16 months to get a visa. So every month I was doing visa runs. That means I don't have a bank account or a car. It means I'm taking taxis every day. There's no metro at the time.
Yeah.
They just started building the metro. And I'm going from Garhoud to Media City every day, back and forward. I'm spending money. I'm supposed to be earning money. And there's no role. That master role was all fake. So they told me, "You're going to come and you're going to train our trainers." When I got there, I was on the floor with everyone, making sure people were welcome. I didn't come here for that. So I wanted to go back. I hated it. And my cousins, who are my uncle's kids, they moved. So now I'm by myself. So I don't have any friends. I'm still new.
A whole new environment for you.
Don't know anything.
Different culture, different
You were younger,
continent.
Yeah, when you're younger and you can go out and have fun and whatever, it's different to when you live any place. You got to take things seriously.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do. But in the back of my mind, I told you, I had this vision of creating this facility, and it was very dreamy, and I was like, I'll just do that. And if it doesn't work in 2 years, I'll just go back. And so, yeah, the rest is history on that one. I created it.
And then I think you mentioned in a book that you lost your business.
Yeah.
Was it this one?
Absolutely. I won Personal Trainer of the Year in 2011. So it put me on the map.
So you got chosen by Shape Middle East,
Correct.
right?
Very good. Yeah. And I was acknowledged for all the work I was doing as a trainer before social media. We're talking 2011. So there was a little bit of social media, but not like now.
So it was all mainstream, basically.
Yeah. And the fact that I won, I was shocked because I was like, wow.
But back then, to be recognized by mainstream was something huge because mainstream was the only outlet for people's career to skyrocket from there.
Yeah.
And you did get recognized.
Surprising. It's very surprising. It's surprising because I didn't think it was going to happen. And I'd been through a lot over those couple of years when I moved here, and then that job that was meant to happen but it didn't happen, and then all these things back and forward with the visa runs and the bank account, and I didn't have a place to stay. Then I moved out of my uncle's place to be closer to
Media
work.
City.
Yeah. But then I was by myself in a studio and I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, how am I going to make money? Like, this is crazy, you know? And I wasn't living that lifestyle. So I'm not even like enjoying myself here. I'm just working and grinding like no one's business. 5:30 in the morning, I'm there. I come back about 8 p.m. Like, who works like that? Like at that time especially, you know, that's just insane. Like, what am I doing? But, you know, sometimes you've really got to dig deep.
I can see that there's a common theme here, because back then when you were playing football, you never thought that you're good enough until your coaches told you several times that, yes, you will be my captain for this team. And then you moved here to the UAE, you were coaching, but you never ever thought that you were going to win everything. And then,
I'll be honest with you.
There's a common theme.
Yeah, doubt, validation, acceptance, uncertainty. We're humans, you know? Even the coaches feel that.
How did your family react to the fact that you were about to move to the UAE and start new life over there?
My family consisted of my mom. My mom means the world to me. Anyone that knows me knows that is, you know, my eyes that I see with. So it was a big decision because I had the chance to come in the 90s and I didn't, because I didn't want to leave my mom behind. But I always thought that if I can work and earn enough, I can get her retired and move her out here. That was like my motivation behind a lot of the things, because she'd given me so much to provide for me for so long. And it was my turn to give back, but I could barely even look after myself. How am I going to look after her? In that period anyway, you know, there was many things that made me doubt what I was trying to do. And moving on from that fitness facility that I was working in, which didn't exist the role, to having my own one, it's like, wow, you've made it now. Well, you haven't really made it, because the truth is it's just the start of what's going to come. So after I opened up Platform 3, my own place with my business partner, who was a businessman, then it put things on the map. You know, we were in the top 5 in the region. It was massive. And I started recruiting trainers from all around the world, bringing them to this place that would have the best of the best things. I had a climbing wall, a boxing ring, a nutritionist. None of that existed at the time. They even questioned, like, this guy doesn't have any machines in his facility. That's because I believed in functional training, bands, cables, tires, ropes. Now, that's everywhere. So the funny thing is, at that time, they're like, but you don't have a leg press. I'm like, well, we don't need a leg press. You only have 2 treadmills. That's enough for us. You have a climbing wall in your facility. Why? Because it challenges the body in ways you're not used to being challenged every single day. So there was things I saw that was taking a risk, but it was a great experience because it was the first of its kind. Now, obviously, unfortunately, it didn't end the way I wanted it to end, but I had to then move on. And that's where the opportunity to develop women's football was massive in 2014, winning Coach of the Year. And I was coaching and I was sponsoring, so I wasn't even getting paid for it, but I was recognized for that. And then later on, obviously, you know, we moved into the men's side of football.
But what happened to the facility?
The facility, basically, my business partner had a vision of it after we were successful. And I had a vision for it. And then when we didn't align, things went the wrong way. And unfortunately, he didn't want to be part of it, so he sold it while I was in it. The person who came on, who bought it from him.
New stakeholders, new vision, new ideas, different everything.
I was a threat to that person, so he wanted to get me out. So he offered me a contract that my receptionist was getting paid.
So was he trying to do the exact same thing that you were trying to do?
No, he wanted to get me out of there. So
but why though?
Because I'm a threat to him, which, by the way, he didn't last that long. He sold it after that. But he offered me a contract that my receptionist was being paid by me as the founder and general manager of that club to get me out. And he did, because I wasn't going to stay there. I wasn't going to be disrespected anymore. And I had to walk away from something that I helped build.
Wow.
What I put my blood, sweat and tears into, I walked away with nothing after so many years of doing everything I can to build that place. So it was hard. It was very hard. My mental health was all over the place.
That's tough.
Yeah. It was very tough. Very tough.
Okay, and then after that, what did you do?
I worked out of my basement. I trained my clients from my basement in my building, and I coached. I continued to coach. develop women's football, achieving some very positive things at the time where women's football wasn't big. One Coach of the Year 2014, it put me on the map a little bit with that because I didn't expect that either. And it came at a good time. And then I got recognized, and then I got a phone call saying the Ghana manager might call you tomorrow. And I thought he was joking. An agent who was
the manager at that time?
Avram Grant, who used to coach Chelsea. Actually almost won the Champions League with Chelsea. Lost in the final. But Avram Grant, so the agent was called Safe, and he was supposed to be my agent as a footballer apparently. And we never met. And then later on, he knew me as a coach, and he told me that Avram Grant's going to call you and tell you to come down to the African Nations Cup. And I was like, no way, chance.
And you got the phone call?
Next day. And I was going to put the phone down. I didn't think it was real. He said, what can you do for me? Now, who starts a conversation like that? I said, what do you need? I need you to get these guys fit. They have a major tournament and they have to do well. And I asked him, when do you need me? And he said, last week. You need to be on that plane now. You never know with these things. You know, subhanAllah, these things work out a certain way, right? But I never knew what to expect. You're going into Africa now. So I was based in Europe. I'm in the Middle East. Now I'm going to Africa.
Now you moved continent for the second time.
Yes.
And again, different culture,
different environment.
Different people, different environment, different weather, different everything.
Yeah, everything. So you don't know what challenge you're going to face. Some of my best friends were African in the UK. So I kind of had an idea of the culture. I just didn't know what to expect, how they were going to embrace me. As a non-Ghanaian, I took the risk. I went to Senegal because that's where the Under-20 African Nations Cup was at the time. And that chapter was, one of the most incredible chapters because I didn't know what to expect. It was a big risk, massive risk to leave everything here behind and just go for a month in a whole new place. You don't know anyone, zero. And you go and you're expected to have the responsibility to train these gladiators. They look like gladiators. They're in shape and you need to get them fit. And they're going to look at me and go, what are you going to do again? So the experience started again. Another chapter to an incredible experience.
Tell us about your journey with Ghanaian under-20 team.
First day, I get to Senegal. I'm in the car and it's like an hour and a half from the airport to the hotel. And there's these animals on the road just crossing over, looking at you like you're the weirdo. I'm like, why is that animal looking at me like that? You know, you're thinking, this is different. The resources may not be as good, but the experience is priceless. That's something that I will never forget. And then I get there at the hotel and I remember seeing the head coach, Salas Tete, of the under-20s, and he looked at me, he goes, are you Omar? I said, yeah. He goes, nice to meet you. I said, nice to meet you too. We have training today? So he's asking me. I don't even know what I'm doing. I just got here. And I asked him, what's the schedule? He's like, we'll sit down later, we'll go over it. I'll tell you what we're doing. Great. So we sit down. So I go back to my room. I like to unpack everything wherever I go. I just like to take everything out of the bag just so I feel like I'm in that space. So take out everything and then I'm like, what do I wear? I mean, it's my first experience with the national team. Yeah. And then I get a knock on the door and all this Puma gear comes in.
Oh,
it's like red and green and it's like amazing. It's got that panther on it, you know? And I'm like, this is me, you know? This is
now
great.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, this is great. And so put on the gear, I'm so excited. I'm like, man, you know, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like,
new life, new me.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing here, but this is going to be amazing, you know? So I get there and then go out to the reception. I just sit down and then they come up to me and they say, okay, so how long do you need today? And I said, well, it's day one. So I want to assess the players. He goes, do you want 2 hours, 3 hours? And I said, no, I need half an hour. And I, what are you going to do in half an hour? I said, I'll do my assessment. This is how I'm going to see, you know, where they're at. And I do this thing with all my teams. And anyone that's listening here from my teams will laugh at this because the first week when I assess a team is a make or break week. You get to really see the characters in it. And you get to see who's really putting the work in behind the scenes before they meet me. And so I put them through this leg circuit that I have, which is a quite famous leg circuit that a lot of my teams, all the women and the men that I've coached, they'll know what I'm talking about. I put them through this leg circuit and 95% of the team ended up in the therapy room getting sports massages that night. And the coach, the coach was like, "What did you do to them?" I said, "I only need half an hour
to break them."
And at that point, the medical team started taking notes. Like, okay, this guy is serious. The players were like looking at me very differently. From when they first saw me, they were like, it was very different. And then when they looked at me, they're like,
"Wow, he knows what he's doing.
This guy is no joke."
And by that time, how many years of experience did you have?
By that time, 2015, I'd say about 8 years experience at that time. 8 years.
That's decent.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. So the players looked at me differently. The staff looked at me differently. And it was definitely something that I would say was an experience for me, because I kind of left my mark on them. And now they were all like, next day, they're like, "We can't even move. What the hell are we going to do this week?" I said, "Well, today we're doing active recovery. Tomorrow we'll do some light work. After tomorrow we go again. Then you have a day off." And so eventually the respect was gained. But it took that first session to get them on my side.
What was the outcome of that experience, of that month?
Of that month, we got bronze in the African Nations Cup. Judging on how much time we had together, we wanted to win it. We didn't go there to get bronze, but getting bronze was massive for us. We qualified for the World Cup under 20s by getting bronze. So that was amazing. And then I returned back to the UAE after that, back to normal life.
What was the best thing and the worst thing out of this experience, you can say in a nutshell?
The best thing, let's start with the vibe, the spirit, the togetherness, especially Ghana. Not that I'm biased, but out of all the African nations, man, I got blessed to fall under that one. Just the way they are, man. Just the way they embraced me. Day one of training, I'm out putting the cones, everything. Coach looks at me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting ready before they come out." He's like, No, we pray. So what does that mean? Just stand with us. We stand, we hold hands. There's a very famous video or picture online with this. We're holding hands. One player says a prayer every different training session. Everyone says Ameen or Amen in there, so depending on what religion you are. And then we start dancing. I'm like, I've never done this before, but I'll roll with you guys. Thank God I have rhythm. If I didn't have rhythm, I'd stand out like a sore thumb. So we're moving and they're singing, and that's how we start every session. And that was the first thing that I felt, this is really different. This is special. And that was the positive. The negative is not knowing what's going to happen after. Every day you don't know. Not knowing if you will be rewarded, whether it's financially, whether it's through the players, through the coaches. Will they acknowledge how much work you put in? So all these things, they cause pros and cons in Africa.
Exactly. This is why I asked, because we have this issue in Africa. That's corruption in sport. Did you suffer from any of that dealing with African corporate, the corporate side of Africa?
I think you try not to look at it and you try not to focus on it, because you need to calm the players. If you're engaged in that, then you're entertaining it. You're using up energy that you need to save on calming the players. And if you start believing it, you start to change without noticing. So I try to ignore it as much as possible. Obviously, we read what everyone reads and we see what everyone sees. But for me, it was more like, if it's not affecting me and it's not affecting my players, then we should be okay. But when it starts to creep in, that's when we can't then jump on that train and say, yeah, no, it's corrupt, and yeah, they're not paying, and yeah, whatever. We have to be like, no, guys, it's going to happen. Praying it does, because you never know. And we discovered that later on as well. I don't really think it's corruption when you don't get paid on time. I think it's delayed. Corruption is if the money's going somewhere where it shouldn't be going, but there was no evidence of that. It was just the fact that for me, I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know when it was going to happen. So that's the only thing that I kind of faced.
So it was kind of foggy.
Yeah, it was foggy.
Yeah.
It was foggy because we're in an environment that I personally am not familiar to. I don't know what to expect, but in order to stay on top of my profession, I can't entertain that energy. Later on, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, what was I thinking? Because all this stuff's happening around me and I don't know what's going on. But when I'm in it, I'm focused on what we have to do. You got to stay professional, You can't give any excuse for the players' attention to divert. We have a game tomorrow and you're thinking about something else.
All right. Now you moved back to the UAE. What happened after that?
I moved back to the UAE from the heights of Africa. The roller coaster just dropped. I didn't know what to do. Because remember, I don't have a gym anymore. I'm working out of my basement. I'm trying to sort my life out. I don't know which direction it's going.
You had this adrenaline rush in Africa, and now you're back to let's call it reality.
Yeah.
And you felt like, now what?
I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know where I was going. Funny enough, I took a job offer to work in an academy because I felt kids were really vulnerable and innocent, and they couldn't con me or treat me wrong, which I faced over the last God knows how many years. So I ended up choosing to work with kids by being director of an academy and help development with kids, because I knew they couldn't hurt me. It's very interesting that now when I think about it, when I reflect on it, kids are some of the most amazing natural beings that we have at that age. Raw emotion is so transparent. They're not hiding anything. If they're happy, they're happy. If they're not, they cry. It's very simple. And then as I was doing that, and I became a UAE specialist all of a sudden from being in Africa, the media enjoyed that. So they called me that, which was nice. The UAE women's national team asked me to be part of their setup because I was coaching against them for so many years. So they were like, enough's enough. You got to join us.
Let's
now.
have that expertise on our side now.
Just the UAE national team should not be suffering defeats. We should be improving and developing. So let's have him on our team. And I was more than happy to help. So I worked with them for a while.
And then you went back to Africa, I guess, again?
Yeah, I got called up to the World Cup. That was amazing. This time the players know me. So day one is not going to be that bad. We got better players join the squad because this is the World Cup now. So we had players come from Italy, from Spain, from France.
Okay.
And so they had heard about me, and obviously I'd heard about them. So I was meeting them for the first time. That was exciting. That experience of getting the kit in the beginning, you know. You open the door.
Knock. Your boomers are here.
Yeah. That stuff comes, oh, this is nice. I'll wear this. You wear it straight away. You're like, this is cool, man. So that experience again is happening. And this time I know what to expect. The first day of training.
Normal day at the office, boys.
Yeah, let's hold hands.
Yeah.
Let's pray. Then let's dance. You know, it was nice. It was, I really needed that in my life. You know, I was at a crossroads at that time. I didn't know where I was going, and I've never been to a World Cup before as a fan, and I get to go as a coach. This is great. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience, and something I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
When you first landed, when you got the FIFA badge, did you have any contact with your mother, like taking a selfie? Look, mom, I kind of made it.
I'm not very good with selfies, believe it or not. I don't take any selfies. And any is a big word. I hardly take any selfies. But when I got there, funny enough, when they gave me my badge, I got off the bus. We went to the stadium. Someone said, hey, you can't go through. Because I thought I had to get it from the stadium. They're like, go this way. So this security guy just took me this way. And I'm like, what's the problem? I'm with them. They're looking at my skin color. Like, you're not Ghanaian. Yeah, but I'm with them. I just got off their bus. Just come with us. So I went with them. And I looked at the guy and I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm with Ghana. Like, where's my accreditation? What's your name? My name is Omar Al Durri. Allah, enta Arabi? And I was like, yes. Enta Masri? He's like, yes. Ahlan wa sahlan. And he looked at me, he's like, تعمل ايه هنا? I'm like, أنا مع منتخب Ghana. He was like, على عيني وراسي لحظة ثواني. This Egyptian guy, just randomly behind. And he couldn't find my documents for some reason. So he did it for me. He got the picture, got the details, printed it on, you know, the sachet, the card, put it in a protector, attached the FIFA clip to. I still have it at home. And he gave it to me. He goes, على عيني وراسي. I said, تشرفنا, man.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. And then I went back into them and I was fine.
With Ghana, what's your best moment and the kind of hardest moment?
We'll start with the hardest moment. My hardest moment is seeing the disappointment when we lost.
When Gian lost the penalty.
That was in the seniors. We were under 20s.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but it's a good point because the juniors or the under 20s were trying to aspire to be like Gian and the seniors by representing Ghana at a major tournament, and the World Cup is the most major tournament for the under 20s. So when we lost, and we lost to Mali, who by the way were an incredible team. I thought they were going to reach the final minimum. They were amazing. Some of them, it's their livelihood, you know? some of them go back to Ghana, and their situation is not like a multi-contract with Man City. They go back and play in the Ghanaian league, and this is everything to them. So that was one of the hardest things for me, is watching how disappointed and how heartbroken they were from losing. Best thing about Ghana is when you do things from your heart and you help people and you do things behind the scenes that people don't see, and then they score. And they score against the best team in the tournament, like Argentina. And that player that you believed in, that a lot of people back home in Ghana didn't believe in, scores that goal. That emotion, that rawness, that feeling of satisfaction that you're happy for him. Like it's like you scored, and you celebrate from your heart. Like you can't take away that spark in someone's eyes when they're on the verge of crying because they're so happy. That is my favorite moment in that tournament.
Just a side question. Why people in Ghana didn't believe in that guy? He wasn't skillful or...
No, he was very skillful. He was a striker. Ben Tete, his name is. And he had a lot of criticism, because nowadays that culture is 1 minute you're really good and the next minute you're awful. You know, you're going to get criticism from everywhere. And it's that culture that we have in sports where it's that blame culture. You're very quick to blame one person or one player if they don't do well, but you forget the good times. Actually, a better example is Southgate, for example, okay? So he's finished semi-finalist and finalist in 2 major tournaments, but they just got relegated from the Nations League and they want him sacked. They want him sacked 6 weeks before the World Cup, but they've forgotten the last 2 tournaments, what he's done. Whether they like him or not, get him out of here. See what I mean?
That seems to be the theme with football around the world.
The Chelsea manager lost his job. He won the Champions League in his first year. If he wins the Champions League in his second year, they'll keep him there. So he maybe overachieved too early. I'm not even a Chelsea fan, but that tells you something, right? So not we, because I don't think like that, but people forget very easily. Fans, very easily. Like, this guy won you the Champions League. There's teams that haven't never won the Champions League. And now he's sacked because the second season he finished third. They finished third. Imagine, and he still gets sacked. So you see, that's the culture we're in. So with this player, he got a lot of criticism, and I was just so happy for him because we spent some time together and just reminding him how good he was, and the fact he scored against Argentina was amazing.
And then there was a very famous moment of you on the screen celebrating the goal.
My cousin in Egypt was watching, and he sent me the first clip I ever saw of me celebrating. I've never seen myself celebrate ever. When are we gonna see ourselves celebrate? It's almost impossible. If we're watching or if we're playing, there's never a camera on you. So I've never seen that. But he said to me, "You look happy." And I think for me, you know, these things you can't fake. And when I watch that video till now, I just feel so happy, because that is why I'm involved in the sport, for moments like that. It's so special.
So we can say that this moment is the highlight of your career in Africa so far.
Oh yeah, by far. One of my favorite moments in football, ever.
That's nice.
Including my license recently. That's up there with it.
World Cup is done. And then what happened after that?
Back down again. Don't know what to do with myself. I really don't know what to do. My mental health is 0. And what's my purpose now? You know, that's the thing, like in the sport, you live through your emotions, you live through these moments, and you go so high. But the danger is at some point, it's going to have to decline. Now, how you manage that ride and how you manage that journey is based on each character. I didn't personally handle it that well. I didn't know what to do. I was just questioning everything. I was in a very dark place mentally. I didn't know if I had any purpose after that. Which sounds really strange, but I genuinely didn't know.
How did you picked yourself up and got yourself out of that situation?
I still worked at the academy. I still worked with the national team, the UAE women's national team. But I needed to learn more. I needed to be challenged. And the only way I could do that is by doing my license with UEFA. But the problem is with the UEFA license, with the English FAs, you have to be in England. And my life is in the UAE. My wife is here. My mum is here. My last decade I've been in the UAE, so how can I just leave that and just go back to the UK for learning? I won't even get paid for that. Well, at least here I can have a job, I can work. So I didn't know what to do. I was like, let me stay as active as I can. I still worked with the national team, the women's. I still helped them and the academy. But I then thought, all right, I need to go back to the learning again and continue to do my license. Because normally you do your license and then you have the experiences. I got the experience and I didn't quite have all my licenses.
Now you want to put that crown on top of that experience.
Yeah. I think the crown will always be there from that experience, but I think the credit to myself, I would be a better coach if I learned what these guys are learning.
But to me, it's a bit strange. You can't be certified unless you go back and certify yourself in
No, so
England.
I
What's the
changed
case?
federations. So from England, I moved to Wales because of the pandemic. So when COVID hit, I was traveling 4 times a year to the UK to get my license. So this is crazy. I'm spending so much money to learn. Then the pandemic hit and there was no travel. So my wife was doing some research and she found the Welsh FA. And after she found the Welsh FA, she's like, you can still be based in the UAE and do things online because of COVID. So I did my C license again after I got it in England. I then did it again with Wales. So then I can do my B license when things would hopefully get better globally. And that's what happened. I did my C again, and then now I just came off my B. So we're moving up, alhamdulillah.
What's the hierarchy of this? Like C, B,
Yeah.
A?
So normally it's level 1, level 2. Some people call level 2 the C license. Then there is UEFA B, which is when people take things very seriously. It's no longer like, oh, let me try and see if I enjoy it. No, it's like proper now.
You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah. And you need to be at a club to practice. You can't just be licensed. You need to be practicing. You need to be showing evidence of. Actually, you helped me out with this when we did the recordings for the mic and the visual, because I have to send things to them to show them how I coach.
Okay.
And then they
so
mark.
those sessions were part of that.
Yeah, that was still level 2. That was still C at that time. But I needed to be able to show them that I am legit. I was waking up at 5 a.m. every morning from anxiety. And the course was 9 to 9 every day.
That's a huge amount of pressure.
Oh my God. I got 7 days. I'm mic'd up every day. I'm videoed every day. I'm assessed every day. There's a reflection sheet every day. And the mentor goes over my session with me and tells me what I did right, what I did wrong, what's a red flag, what's a green, what's okay in the yellow. I get marked every single day. So
That's a lot of pressure.
that's the level, right? That's
But
the
how
standard.
can you create diamond without applying that pressure to that carbon, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And the experience afterwards was fantastic because I was way out of my comfort zone. And I came back thinking, all right, you need to now apply what you just learned. Because I coach here in the men's amateur league and I look after 29 guys. It's your turn now. Your turn to teach these guys. And the first thing I said to them, we need to get into a room, all of us. And if I'm not teaching you guys the right thing, then I can't expect you to deliver. So the pressure's on me to deliver, and I'm going to do my best to give you as much as I can. So then you guys can go and enjoy yourselves on the pitch. And we switched everything up from the way I was before, because now there's a system, there's a structure now. So what is our identity? What is our game model? What is our philosophy? What am I expecting from you guys? What does each player have to do? What patterns are we creating? What movements are we creating? What type of opposition are we up against? Who are we as a team? What is our identity? And if they don't have the answers for that, that means I'm not doing my job.
Having that amount of experience and knowledge at this point, what's the one thing that you wish to change in the African football? If time goes back, is there anything that you wish that if you'd done it differently?
I don't know what it's like now. So I don't really know what's happening behind the scenes now because I've been way out of touch with that. But from a personal level, I wish I had that opportunity now. Because then I could offer more. Because now I feel I can give more. Because I'm still learning and I'm not stopping here at my UEFA B. I want my A, then I want my Pro. So it never stops for me. But I wish I could have the opportunity now so I can give them more and see if I can genuinely help them more than I already have now.
Working in the very early years in Europe and then Middle East and Africa, where do you find yourself out of these 3 regions?
Wherever football takes me. I learned you shouldn't have limitations. I used to be like, nope, I'd never end up here. or I'd never go there. But if the game takes you there and you develop, why not? Every experience brings something else to your plate, and every plate has different flavors. So why not enjoy the flavors rather than say you're allergic to them?
You know anything about the Sudanese football?
Not as much as I would like to. I'd have to say it's not something I have looked into. There's been a couple of offers over the last couple of years from similar sized nations, which are obviously not allowed to disclose because I didn't take those offers. But I'm very intrigued by nations like that. Not just because of my affiliation with some of my closest friends being from there, but also because I genuinely do really like that culture. Like I've always had a closeness to that culture. I told you this, I think, before. I think with the Sudanese culture and the Sudanese people, it's no coincidence that in the last 3 to 4 decades, that there's always been at least 1 or 2 from Sudan who've been very close to my heart, and they've given me a very good impression on what it's about.
Now I'm imagining you landed in Sudan and trying to coach a team in the Sudanese league, and it's so different out there. It's like the football there is so different. Let's talk about defenders. The public expecting from a defender to be rough, clear the ball. We don't want clean tackle. We want you to sweep. We had a player, we used to call him Cristiano.
Okay.
He wasn't from our neighborhood. He was from the neighborhood next to us. Mm-hmm. So he used to come long way and play with us. There is a Sudanese culture in the field. Like if someone nutmeg you, that guy is going back home.
Yeah.
Carrying his leg on his hand.
Yeah.
That guy Cristiano, he was so talented. He was so good. Quick feet on the pitch, good shooting power, passes accuracy, top level. The problem is every time he gets past a defender, the next defender comes and tackle the out of him. And after a couple of games, he just disappeared.
He's still carrying his leg.
Yeah, but where is he going to go? It's not us problem. It's not AJ's problem. It's the Sudanese problem. It's the Sudanese way of playing football. If there's a talented player playing true football, he won't be able to make it. He will be injured. That's why aggressive, physically tough players find their way easily to the top league, but not the talented ones. Okay, now let's get back on track. When did the idea of writing a book, Reset, came to you? And what was the motivation behind writing the book?
I think 20 years of studying, education, 20 years of mistakes, trying to simplify something which a lot of people need, which is health, well-being, trying not to overcomplicate things. I think all these things fell in line. I'm not a writer by trade, and I didn't think I was going to be a best-selling author either. So that's the reality of it. The truth is, I think the reason why people can identify with it is because there's a lot of mistakes I made that now have produced this book, and it helps you kind of get through different dominoes, which is why I call it a domino system. It's because even if you have 4 things that are amazing, but one thing is not quite where it should be, it could affect your whole chain reaction. And that's that red domino on the front of the book. So whether that's nutrition, whether that's physical training, whether that's your mindset, which a lot of people probably always say is their favorite domino in the book. They always go back to that chapter and read it because they can resonate with it. Whether it's recovery, which a lot of people sometimes they get on a roll, they get excited, they go train every single day, then they get injured. So they don't really maintain that by doing the right recovery. Or whether it's resetting your environment, which is super important for anyone to be in the right headspace, physical space, by creating your own environment for you to achieve what you need to achieve in. And that's why Reset was formed. And that's why there's a chain reaction that people need to kind of be more aware of. Because if they do, then they won't suffer the things that I suffered probably by making those mistakes. And they'll be able to actually implement them and feel and live better, which will inspire their children to do so. And then that means it starts to become a family thing where the whole family now are acting in a much better way, a healthier way, and adding more years to their life because they're doing things as a family together.
I will leave a link in the description, an Amazon link in the description for Reset book. It's a really great book. Trust me and believe me, you'll need this. I've read the book.
Okay.
I really liked it.
Really?
And I will get some quotes from the book and from your Instagram as well. Okay, let's start with my favorite quote from your Instagram. When God blesses you financially, don't raise your standard of living, raise your standard of giving.
It's so true, you know. Sometimes we're given things and we think we need to go bigger, we need to do more, but actually it's the way we live that makes us who we are, really. And just being mindful and grateful is so important, especially in the era we're in now. You know, everyone is talking about more and getting more and getting more and more. I think sometimes giving is something, because people never forget the way you treat them. And sometimes in times of difficulty, where such a simple gesture could go a long way for someone that's like listening now, that we've mentioned mental health, or we've mentioned something where I was ground zero and questioned my purpose. Someone out there might be feeling the same way. And they realize, you know what, we're not alone. As men can't talk about these things. Well, in the book, I talk about them. You know, that mentality, no, be a man. You got to do it. Man up.
Yeah, of course. If you talk about mental health, people will think you're a
But that's what I'm saying. But see, actually, you're more of a man if you're able to discuss these things and be open about them and be vulnerable about them, because that's what real men do.
Another thing, that the reason why men are not discussing or talking mental health in the first place, because we as men, we feel all the time that we are not allowed to be weak because we have family members or we have people depending on us. If you are the carrier
and you're showing signs of weakness,
you show any signs of weakness, then it's not really gonna get good for your family.
Yeah, but that's the definition of weakness. Is weakness basically saying that you're acknowledging that a man can express his feelings versus someone saying, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. That's weakness.
Yeah, I don't think men do not have this option in life.
But if you try and find a solution for it, if you persevere through it, if you will accept the challenge and move forward with it, but you're aware of what this does, how it affects you, then that's actually a strength, because you're acknowledging there is an issue that you're addressing and that you're working towards. You're not giving up. Giving up is that narrative that people think that, oh, you're showing weakness. But if you're acknowledging it's okay to have days as men that you don't particularly feel good about yourself, that's not weakness. That means that you and I can be the same person on any given day where we have a low day. Now, are we going to feel sorry for ourselves, or tomorrow we're going to try and tackle this day and make it better? That's when a real man stands up, not saying, well, I had a crap day, tomorrow's going to be another crap day, I'm going to feel sorry for myself. That's losing. Winning is you're like, right, so how am I going to make this different now? I want to work on that one thing. Just that one thing is going to change things. At least do something for me. Because when you're on a plane and the plane's about to crash, the first thing they tell you to do is put your mask on before you put your partner's mask on or your kid's mask on. The reason why they tell you that, because you can't look after them if you haven't looked after yourself. Now you think of mental health. Mental health is exactly the same thing. How are you supposed to look after a family when you're too worried about showing signs of weakness, when you can't even put the mask on yourself? You can't even self-care. Can't even do things that's going to make you feel better. Could be anything. You'd be surprised. How many times have people listened to a track that they haven't heard for ages and smiled? Do some breath work. Call a friend or a family member that you haven't spoken to in a while. Give something to charity. Don't tell anyone you're doing it. Just do it. You'd be shocked. They say pray istikhara or pray just a normal prayer just to give something back. You know, we talked about giving. Let's think about giving instead of taking. And maybe, and just maybe, that one person that's listening now might think, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to go do now. I'm going to do something good for me, for myself. And then people are going to be lifted by that. And then someone else is going to do that. Now all of a sudden, all these people are doing something and it's coming back to them. The way the universe works, right? SubhanAllah, how sometimes you think, oh man, it can't get worse than this. And then you get through it. And then something else happens. Oh man, this is really crap
I thought that was bad.
I thought that was crap.
Look at this.
Look at this shit.
Yeah.
You know? And then you get through it. It's doing things for yourself. And I think it's so important. By the way, writing a book, I don't have all the answers now, but I made those mistakes. So now those people that are reading that, they go, okay, I feel a bit of this. I feel like he does in this chapter. Maybe I need to address this now before it gets worse. Like when he hit that ground level and he questioned what his purpose was. What is his why? Why is he doing something? What's his purpose here? Then they start to identify with certain things and they go, wow, actually, this book ain't about Omar Al Durri. This book is about me finding myself in Reset.
And I felt that in this book.
Amazing. I'm so happy you said that.
Let's talk about the first domino.
Okay.
The habits and what we do constantly determine who we are. the most important habit is nutrition and dieting. And I'm a man suffering from a bad diet. I'm one of the hardest working human in the gym. But I don't treat myself well in terms of nutrition. I have so many reasons for this. I used to cook clean food and everything. But then, me living by my own, I get grocery. I cook today, I cook tomorrow. But on the third day, I don't cook because I'm busy. I'm out somewhere doing anything. I come back home. Now I have to throw food away. And that hurt me so much.
Yeah.
I threw 2 cucumbers and until now I feel bad about it because I know what food means to people. From where I come from, like no one is throwing any food because every single grain of wheat is so valuable. And now that I'm blessed, I can go to the grocery whenever I want. I get all my groceries fresh and everything. Now I'm throwing food. That hurt me so much. I suffered from depression not really long time ago. And I think that was one of the reasons, because the idea of me throwing food was like, I cannot accept this. Then I stopped cooking for that. Then I tried getting healthy food online. It was too expensive for me, to be honest. Now I don't eat clean. But at least I don't throw food. When I cook it clean because I control like everything that goes into this meal. That's not the case when you order a meal from outside. You have no idea how much sugar is in this plate. Until this day, I'm still suffering from nutrition and dieting.
Okay. When I hear you talk about food in this situation and what it's done to you and how you've reacted to it, it's like you're talking about a person, because it's a relationship. You have a relationship with food. Food and the idea and the thing that scares you about wasting it has caused a bad relationship with food. But in fact, when you look at food as fuel, you need food. Food needs you. It's something that you kind of work off each other, because if you don't eat it, it goes to waste. So it does need you as well. And when you do eat the right food, you feel better. So you need to improve that relationship with food, because it can be fuel to your brain, your body, your recovery, your environment.
I really tried really hard. I go to the grocery, I get 1 tomato, 1 cucumber, like a little bit of greens here and there.
Yeah.
Very few amounts. Because of me living by my own, if I don't eat it, nobody else will eat it.
But can you eat it the next day?
Sometimes I get busy. I'm not even at the house like for a week or something. My schedule is sometimes unexpectable.
Yeah.
So,
but that comes through planning.
I really tried hard to plan.
You gotta try harder. You see how harsh I'm being is the fact that you work crazy hours. I've seen it. But that shouldn't... You can only work better if you improve your relationship with food, which means that you worrying about wasting food has to come about you making 5 minutes time to eat. You can't not eat, because then you will not be able, even you, the most professional of professional in what you do, will function better with a 5-minute break. Even if you're not eating, even if you're just sitting there alone in peace, breathing. Breathing is one of the most underestimated things. Some of the best athletes in the world are the best because of their breath work, because they're able to deal with high pressure situations, high stakes, through breath work. Go on, hit me with the next one.
Mental health, Domino 2.
I've had close people in my life, and I don't really deal well with losses. And I've lost a few people who had played the integral role in my upbringing. So losing them, again, puts things in perspective. You think, why these people and why is it their time to go? And then you question a lot of things which affects your mental health, and you can either go down two routes. You can either go down the negative one where you start to abuse, yourself and start to question what your existence is, or you go down the route where you get more spiritual. Some people call it religious, some people call it more spiritual, some people become closer to God and closer to your family. And I chose my direction, which was the left, towards the family, towards the spiritual part, because I genuinely don't think I'd still be alive if I had gone the other way.
There is a nice quote from the book. I really like this quote. I really liked it. Give yourself the same advice you would give a trusted family member or a dear friend. We often give the best advice when we aren't involved
We always know what to do, but we don't always do what we know.
At the
Best
time that I
advice.
was suffering from depression, I was really giving the best advice to a really close friend who is suffering from depression. And I was depressed myself. I was giving the best advice. I wasn't taking those actions. I can really relate to that. This was a great exercise in the book.
Okay, amazing.
List 5 things that you're grateful for and list 5 people that you're grateful for.
And I think also because you read the book, because it's a conversation style book, maybe there's certain things you thought, you know what, actually, that reminds me. And then so when I ask you in the book, at different points, I ask you to write certain comments about certain things, and you write it down. As you get through the journey, you then realize, man, I have more blessings than I thought.
Exactly. This is how I felt.
And this is who I am lucky to have, and this is what I'm fortunate to have, rather than what I don't have. It's half empty versus half full. And this book brings that to life, depending on who's reading it, which chapter they've read, what they've got through, and then what they write down.
And then when I listed the 5 people that I'm grateful for...
Did you contact any of them?
No, I can't. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, interesting.
I never thought that I would be listing my enemies among the 5
cool.
people that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Humans naturally innocent.
Yeah.
But then you come to certain experiences with human that shows you really in real life how evil can a human be. I've met some evil bastards in life.
Interesting.
And then when I was listing the 5 people that I'm grateful for, that evil was one of the people, because he really taught me about human a lot.
Interesting.
It was an eye-opening experience for me, this book.
Amazing.
Me and everyone read this book surely will be thanking you for this masterpiece right here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you stand for. I appreciate your Pulse 95 radio program, because it talks a lot about mental health. You could be helping a lot of people out there and you have no idea.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. You know, being behind the mic, as you know, and being behind radio, you don't always see or interact with people like yourself like this. So if I was to list one of the grateful things that I got from this experience, was getting to know you on a more personal level through obviously your work, but also through how you are personally. And the second thing is, the book is nothing without its reader. So the fact that you could live through that book and you could identify a lot of important things for yourself and you could speak to your friends about it, then that 1% that I had set myself an objective to help, I've already achieved. So that's why I'm very proud of what it stands for, because I still feel there's room for it out there. And I don't think I would put myself through it again after writing it 4 times. I don't think I could do that again. On social media, the only channel I'm active on is Instagram, which is at Omar Al Durri. And if you do read the book and I don't get the pleasure of listening to it like I did from you today, I normally tell the readers to either leave a review on Google or Amazon, or to just message me and let me know how it's affected them. Because it's important to me as a writer to be able to hear what the reader is feeling. So it's so important. I thrive off human interaction. And sometimes when you help someone and you don't know you're helping them, it could mean the world to that person who's set something out there. And putting a piece like this out there was a huge challenge for me as well, because I had to accept that I'm giving something that I might not necessarily get back, you know, because you're putting your heart and soul into something and you're like, I don't know what they're going to think of it, but here's me. This is Reset. Let me know how your reset journey goes. And hopefully, inshallah, it has a positive impact on you, because we need more people lifting each other rather than bringing people down. My message, like, to everyone, and the opportunity for today, which, I mean, you didn't even have to ask me. I was more than happy to be on this show, is to not be scared of resetting, because we all need it from time to time. It's not something you can do once.
Thank you so much for being here. It's the first time. Hopefully it won't be the last time.
Inshallah.
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 Inshallah. See you inshallah on the football pitch.
Definitely. Thank you, bro.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
Alhamdulillah, oh, for turning nothing into something. I hope you love it though you heard it. I see I do. We busy hustling, they just munching la low. The way my baby girl be working that too.